Welcome to Have You Read It? The channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Today, we're diving into The Courage to Be Happy, the compelling sequel to The Courage to Be Disliked. This book, co-authored by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga, further explores the practical application of Alfred Adler's often misunderstood psychology of courage. Like its predecessor, it takes the form of a dialogue between a young man, now a teacher, and a philosopher well-versed in Adlerian thought. Our story picks up 3 years after the first book. The youth, initially inspired by Adler's ideas, has become disillusioned by their perceived impracticality in the real world of the classroom. He returns to the philosopher, not for friendly discourse, but to denounce Adlerian psychology as quackery, particularly the principle of not praising or rebuking students. The youth argues that Adler's focus on ideals and concepts like community feeling sounds more like religious dogma than scientific psychology. The philosopher counters, classifying Adlerian psychology as a philosophy akin to Greek philosophical thought, emphasizing its focus on abstract concepts rather than religious stories. He acknowledges that Adlerian psychology, like Freudian and Jungian psychology, lacks strict scientific falsifiability. The core of the youth's frustration lies in his experience applying Adler's principles to education. He struggles with maintaining classroom order without resorting to traditional reward and punishment systems. The philosopher reiterates the Adlerian concept of separation of tasks, distinguishing between one's own tasks and other people's tasks. He emphasizes that studying is the child's task, not the parents' or teachers'. The role of education, he explains, isn't to intervene, but to assist in the student's journey toward self-reliance. The philosopher stresses respect as the essential starting point for education and all interpersonal relationships. Respect, he explains, is not about demanding reverence, but about seeing others as they are and valuing their unique individuality. He further clarifies that social feeling, or community feeling, a key concept in Adlerian psychology, translates to practical concern for others. The first step toward this, he suggests, is having concern for other people's concerns, even if those concerns seem trivial or depraved to the adult eye. This requires empathy, which the philosopher defines as imagining oneself having the same heart and life as the other person. The youth remains skeptical, arguing that children, particularly older students, often know they're doing wrong when they engage in problem behavior. The philosopher introduces the 5 stages of problem behavior: demand for admiration, attention drawing, power struggles, revenge, and proof of incompetence. He argues that these stages, though escalating, all stem from the desire for a sense of belonging within the community. Rebuking a child, he says, often plays into the child's goal of gaining special attention, even if negative. The philosopher likens the classroom to a democratic nation where students are sovereign citizens. Reward and punishment, he argues, represent a dictatorial system that fosters competition and undermines cooperation. He contrasts this with the Adlerian ideal of a horizontal relationship based on cooperation and equality. He suggests that praising a student reinforces the competition principle and turns other students into rivals rather than comrades. The youth challenges the philosopher's rejection of praise, recalling an instance where praising a student's book report sparked a genuine love of reading. The philosopher argues that such praise, though seemingly positive, creates a dependence on external validation and fuels a constant need for approval. True self-worth, he reiterates, must come from within, not from others. He suggests that the youth's struggle stems not from his student's behavior, but from his own unhappiness and his unconscious desire to be a savior through education, a manifestation of the Messiah complex. He urges the youth to focus on his own happiness before attempting to save others. The philosopher defines the life tasks of work, friendship, and love as tasks of interpersonal relationships. He distinguishes between trust, which is conditional and often driven by self-interest, and confidence, which is unconditional and believes in the other person's inherent worth. He asserts that work relationships are based on trust, while friend relationships, and ultimately love relationships, are built on confidence. According to the philosopher, Adler viewed work as a necessary task of division of labor essential for human survival. He emphasizes that all professions are honorable within this framework because they contribute to the functioning of society. The youth questions why he should have a friend relationship rather than a work relationship with his students. The philosopher clarifies that a friend relationship built on confidence enables empathy and fosters the community feeling essential for self-reliance. He argues that the youth's inability to connect with his students stems from a lack of courage to be ordinary and a continuing dependence on the need for approval from others, even his students. The philosopher continues by explaining that self-reliance is about breaking free from self-centeredness, a natural state of childhood. He uses the example of a child's fear of the dark, not as fear of the dark itself, but as a strategy to maintain proximity to the mother. He contends that true self-reliance comes from choosing to love, shifting the subject of life from me to us. He encourages the youth to actively love, not wait to be loved, and to take responsibility for his own happiness. He highlights the importance of believing in others unconditionally, even if they don't believe in you, as an active approach to building relationships. He points out that people are often more afraid of loving than of not being loved. The youth, while acknowledging his struggles with self-love and the courage to love, insists on the importance of finding a destined one. The philosopher argues that the idea of a destined one is often a convenient excuse to avoid the risks and responsibilities of forming deeper relationships. He emphasizes that love is not something we fall into, but something we build. He compares love to a dance, where two people, without knowing the future, focus on creating the best possible dance in the present moment. He repeats the serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom always to tell the difference. The philosopher encourages the youth to shift from a passive art of being loved to an active art of loving. He concludes by emphasizing the importance of giving, rather than receiving, in interpersonal relationships. He rephrases the biblical phrase, "Ask, and it shall be given you," to the Adlerian principle, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." The main takeaway from The Courage to Be Happy is that happiness is a choice, not a destination. It requires courage. The courage to be ordinary, the courage to love, and the courage to be disliked. It involves focusing on the present moment, taking responsibility for our own lives, and building horizontal relationships based on respect, confidence, and contribution. Thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.